Not every man can take the disappointing and humiliation from Nigerian wives imported to US. Yes, I have killed the woman that messed up my life. The woman that has destroyed me. I am at shallow waste. My name is David, and I am all yours. Those were David Ochola's words during his 911 call to authorities after shooting dead his 28-year-old wife, Priscilla Ochola, in Hennepin, Minnesota. The 50-year-old husband was tired of being disrespected by his wife, a registered nurse, whom he had brought from Nigeria and sponsored through nursing school, only to have her make much more than him in salary, a situation which led to Mrs. Ochola coming and going as she chose without regard for her husband. The couple had 2 children, 4-year-old boy and a 3-year-old girl. In Texas, Babajide Okewo had been separated from his wife, Funke Okewo, with whom he resided at their Dallas home. Upon the divorce, the husband lost the house to his wife, along with most of the contents therein, as it is usually the tradition in the US divorces where the couple still has underage children. Mr. Okewo, 48 years old, divorced his wife because not long after she became a registered nurse and made more money than him, she took control of the family finances and controlled her husband's expenditure and movement. The husband could no longer make any meaningful contribution to his family back in Nigeria unless the wife approved it. He could not go out without her permission, frustrated that his formerly malleable wife had suddenly become such a terror to him to the point of asking for in court and getting virtually everything for which he had worked since coming to the US 30 years prior. The husband got in his vehicle and drove a few hundred miles to Dallas to settle the scores. He found her in her SUV, adorned in full Nigerian attire, on her way to the birthday bash organized in her honor. She had turned 46 on that day. Mr. Okewo fired several rounds into his wife's torso while she sat at the steering wheel, mercilessly killing her in broad daylight. Also in Dallas, Moses Egaravaba, 45 years old, did not even bother to get a gun. The husband of Grace Egaravaba, 35 years old, bludgeoned her to death with a sledgehammer while the 7-year-old daughter watched and screamed for peace. Mrs. Egaravaba's saying was that she became a registered nurse and started to make more money than her husband. These led to her financial liberation from a supposedly tight-fisted husband who had not only brought her from Nigeria, but had also funded her nursing school education. Like Moses, Christopher Ndobisi of Garland, Texas, also did not bother to get a gun. He crept into the bedroom where his wife, Christiana, was sleeping and with several blows of the sledgehammer, crushed her head. 2 years before Christiana was killed, her mother, who had been visiting from Nigeria, was found dead in the bathtub under circumstances believed to be suspicious. Of course, Christiana was a registered nurse whose income dwarfed that of her husband as soon as she graduated from nursing school. The husband believed that his role as a husband and the head of the household had been usurped by his wife. Mr. Ndubisi's several entreaties to his wife's family to intercede and bring Christiana back under his control had all failed. If the circumstances surrounding the death of Christiana's mother were suspicious, those surrounding the death of a Tennessee woman's mother were not. Agnes Nwodo, a registered nurse, lived in squalor before her husband, Godfrey Nwodo, rescued her and brought her to the US. He enrolled her in nursing school right away. Upon qualifying as a registered nurse, Mrs. Nwodo assumed full control of the household. She brought her mother to live with them against her husband's wishes. Mrs. Nwodo quickly familiarized herself with US family laws and took full advantage of them. Several other incidents have been reported about Nigerian men killing their wives, not just in America, but in other countries around the world. What is eye-popping is the similarities in how the criminal acts escalates, leading to unnecessary loss of lives. The latest is another Nigerian man who is likely to join the list of convicted wife killers, and he is one Hassan Adeyemo, who allegedly shot his wife dead in Orlando, Florida on August 27th this year. There have been several stories floating around the social media about circumstances surrounding the unfortunate episode. Some people even tend to have swayed emotionally to pity the alleged killer. This ugly trend of events is fast becoming a norm in the Nigerian communities around America and Europe, especially now. The nagging question is, what would make a man pass the death sentence on his wife? The answer is not handy, but there are various pressures associated with living in America or Europe, as the case may be, for a foreigner from Africa. One outstanding challenge for an African foreigner is bill payment responsibility. Bill payment is an automatically assumed but uncomfortable challenge for an African who relocates to America or Europe. Some bills are paid in Africa, but not under stringent conditions and deadlines enforcement. Disagreement over payments of bill cause serious rifts in a household. Peer pressures comes for both husband and wife, but more pronounced with women. This could result from an innocent woman, possibly from the village, relocated to America or Europe, and sponsored to nursing school by a high or low-paid working husband. When she graduates and starts making her money and mingles with the wrong group, partying every weekend and convinced by her peers to disregard the man. On the other hand, there are men who still live their lives typically in consonance with the style in Nigeria. Believe it or not, there are Nigerian men who have positioned their wives as punching bags in America and Europe. Some elope with other women for days or weeks, or months, laying the foundation for crisis, and such may become unresolvable, leading to fatality. Unfortunately, the gun use culture in the United States is also a common societal influence, bearing its weight on some of our men and children. A disgruntled Nigerian man can acquire a gun by circumventing the law somehow, since lots and lots of the killer weapons are already in the wrong hands. Someone with a wrong motive can also acquire guns, officially and legally, depending on specifications of the law in the state he or she resides. There is also the erroneous posturing in some quarters that you are a failure if you don't own properties or businesses at home, having lived abroad for decades. This misguided postulation has put couples under unnecessary pressure to struggle for survival in foreign lands and still jostle to do things back home. In most situations like this, the financial need does not come as a windfall, but sometimes as contributions into a cooperative involving a group of people. They call it ajo or esusu. Married couples have found themselves at loggerheads because of distrust, however, or over to invest some of the hard-earned dollars in their home country. There are stories of husbands and wives who secretly divert money to Africa to buy property or set up businesses without a better house knowledge. Situations like this breed dissatisfactions that sometimes become calamitous to the marriage and the household. Crooked immigrants' transition process could plant bitterness between couples. There are couples who have become estranged because of the need to regularize their stay in America or Europe. Husbands may have to relocate as live-in with another woman in the name of green card. Likewise, women have to sleep with a strange man to perfect their immigration status. An annual formality that has become highly inflammatory in some African households is tax refunds from the state and federal government. Couples have fought dirty over how to deploy their claims right in front of the tax preparer. How to manage or share funds from annual tax filings has decimated some families forever. Some couples have become roommates instead of husband and wife because of disagreements over money. Believe it or not, children could create hostility between husband and wife in America or Europe. A child who chooses the wrong way by dropping out of school, smoking cannabis, or doing another drugs mostly becomes an enemy to the father. In most cases, women are known to be more tolerant, unlike the man who is always ready to kick out a recalcitrant child. Simply put, the woman is not ready to lose a child she carried in pregnancy for 9 months, while the man is ready to just let go of a bad child. The difference takes about circumstances of this nature have disintegrated the love and understanding between married couples. Reflecting on all these scenarios and stories highlighting the rough path you may have to tread as a foreigner in America or Europe. I remember a friend who was assistant chief pharmacologist in one of the eastern states. His medical doctor friend, who is also a Nigerian, convinced him to relocate here. He could not even bring his family to America, and he could not go home. My friend became homeless, sleeping in another friend's living room. He ended up in nursing home health problems. Papa, as we used to call him, developed health complications and died looking for a green card. Another pathetic story is that of a Nigerian man who used to hang out with us while working as editor almost pro bono for a Nigerian local tabloid during my early days here. The man used to come around with his 10-year-old daughter, who was quite his carbon copy. He was a cab driver, and he was evidently suffering from mental imbalance, noticeable in some of his actions. The story is that he suffered emotional pains caused by his wife, for deserted him and his daughter. According to sources, a friend finally relocated his family to America after protracted efforts to get his papers. He encouraged his wife to enroll in a nursing school, where she graduated from and started earning a good income. As soon as she linked up with society ladies, things changed, and her husband was not good enough anymore. He could have opted to kill his ex-wife like some other Nigerian men, but as far as I know, he did not. So the $1 million question again is, what really motivates the Nigerian men in America and Europe to pass and execute the death sentence on their wives? Are the killings really worth it? Is walking away not a better option? These are food for thoughts. This special report is brought to you by Atlantic Television Network. I am Victor Peter. Thank you for watching.